Jenny-Jaymes and our sidekick Christian Cano, partner in crime, is coming up next.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen's sidekick. Welcome to Two Queers in a Truck. Hi y'all.
See you soon. Good morning, everybody. We are back from spring break and hot girl spring, and we have been away for a little while because we had some family things and obligations, and I did a little moving. I'm broadcasting from an undisclosed new location, but a permanent location, and Christian's been taking care of his family and somewhere else and in West Afghanistan and maybe and we've both been busy beavers, so we have not recorded shows for I don't know, it's 10 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever it's been. I hope y'all missed us. We have tons of back episodes going back 6 years, so I mean, if you really were thirsting for us, you can hear us on all your favorite podcast channels. But this is Two Queers in a Truck. And we're in May. This is May Day. It's May 1st.
That's incredible.
And 4 days it'll be Cinco de Mayo, and which is not Mexican Independence Day for the white people and illiterate people. For God's sake, there is Google. Like, if you're going to commit to a holiday and you're going to drink in honor of it, at least Google it. At least there's a Google machine, and it'll pop up what Cinco de Mayo is and what CSA. I can't. This morning I can't.
Yep.
CSA right before my birthday, and they're two different holidays. And I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to make you Google it. I'm going to make you Google it, white people.
That's your homework.
That's your homework. And so there wasn't going to be any math involved today. But you definitely need to look stuff up before you celebrate it. If you don't know what it is, don't fucking celebrate it. Put the cervezas down, step away, crack out your phone, get on the Google machine, and be a grown-ass adult. Anyway, we are fire. I've got 3 weeks worth of shows in me. We're going to cram in one 45-minute sesh. And it is May 1st. This is Two Queers in a Truck, and we're going to get started. And we're going to jump right into the TikTok battle. As part of the congressional, basically a fuck you to America and fuck you to the world, they passed a bunch of stuff through their House and Senate the last couple of weeks. One of the biggest ones is the controversial aid packages to every country but the United States. And the only thing they're really doing for the United States is trying to screw people out of TikTok because, I don't know, I guess Crybaby Elmo and Crybaby Zuckerberg is mad because they can't compete with TikTok. TikTok's where all the cool kids are. The cool kids left all the old people's platforms, and I don't get it because I like TikTok. It's not my favorite platform. Instagram is actually my favorite platform, maybe because I have the most followers or whatever on there, but I just I understand Instagram's platform a little easier. It's a little easier to use because I am older but I love TikTok and I love it for the people that enjoy it. And the United States government, I don't know what the fuck the Congress is thinking about harassing TikTok because I honestly don't see it. I know enough technology people, and if people that get on TikTok and actively use it aren't holding government secrets. They're usually doing little dances or talking about something. And the only thing I can figure out is abortion organizers use TikTok as a communication tool and progressives use it as a tool. And they want to claim that it's the commies listening. And I'm like, Commies want to listen in, they're going to listen in. They've been listening for decades. They can cut right through your tinfoil hat. Like, there's such a crock of shit. It's just like, you remember, Christian, when we had the people that were saying if you get the vaccine, you're going to get injected with a microchip.
Yep, that's right.
Including a very close family member of mine. And told me why she wasn't getting the vaccine. And I said, I love you, but you're medically retired. You're on Social Security. The U.S. government is not going to inject you with a microchip. That is a waste of a microchip. Second of all, I know that you're using an iPhone. Why? Because I bought that for you for Christmas years ago. And I know you're still using the same phone. Every smartphone has a fucking microchip. If the government wants to come find you and you're connected to the internet in any way, shape, or form, you have a thing called an IP address. It's like a street address, but even worse. And they can come find you. Just ask Willie Nelson about the IRS. Just saying. If they want to come find, DeLorean's dead, but he, like.
Oh, you just dated yourself.
Yes, I did. I'm an 80s kid. But if they want to come find you, they'll come find you, no matter how rich you are. And people need to understand the Chinese government doesn't own TikTok. It's owned, and its CEO is not even a Chinese citizen. In fact, he's married to an American. That's the crazy thing is he's probably going to be a dual citizen soon. And he makes all the decisions for TikTok, not the Chinese government. I think it's an excuse. I think it's a massive overreach. I have a major problem with people over-regulating social media. First of all, social media isn't real life, folks. It's entertainment. Just like Fox News is not real news. It's entertainment. And if you take Fox News or social media serious, maybe that call's coming from inside the house. Maybe you need to re-examine how smart you really are. Like taking Tucker Carlson serious. Like, who would take Tucker Carlson serious? Especially after the episode where he was tanning his balls and made soft gay porn as a commercial. Like, come on. Who takes Lindsey Graham serious? I mean, who takes Trump serious at this point? Like, who in the world still considers him presidential? We need to look at these sort of things. And if TikTok is the biggest threat to American society right now, we got some significant problems. And I just think it's ridiculous. It's kind of like the rock lyrics in the late 90s when Tipper Gore and all the Democrats that were super conservative, but they didn't want to be Republicans, but they were worried about rock lyrics drawing kids to the devil. And like Bobby Boucher's mom, football is the devil. Girls are the devil. And these people, just like they're the Who Farted kid, they're also mama. And they are, mama says the TikTok is going to make you worship Satan and hate America. And I'm like, well, that might be true. But it also has a lot of religious people on there. I've seen a lot of conservatives on there. Libs of TikTok targets trans people. And it has nothing to do with liberals. And Chaya, the person that runs that, is a terrorist, it is what it is. But banning TikTok or restricting TikTok only is just, it's clearly something that Meta, aka Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, because they can't compete and they won't modernize their systems, and TikTok just has better features. Obviously, it's just a better platform, and it's got mass appeal to the kiddos. And the cool TikTok kids aren't having it. and I hope they go nuts. I mean, I wouldn't want to be one of those politicians that has my name on that. Speaking of stupid stuff, like, I support some of the foreign aid, but I don't know what Democrats are thinking when they're still funneling money into Israel. And I'm not anti-Semitic, but if you guys want to twist off on that, you can. But first of all, Israel doesn't need our money. Second of all, if they do need our money, then there needs to be a talk. And blowing up people that can't fight back just so you can take their gas reserves and their oil reserves, because that's what this is really about. Let's have some plain talk. It has nothing to do with Hamas. It has really nothing to do with October 7th. But they're pushing because they are, at the end of the day, there's a $2 trillion gas find on Palestinian land. Let's be real. $2 trillion amongst friends is a lot of money. They really don't want Palestinians to have it because they would rather have it for themselves. And I get it. But it's shit in the shoebox, and it's a crock of shit. And the United States can't support something like that. I mean, when you think about what we did to indigenous people, what we did to black people and former African slaves, like, do we really want to support another form of fiefdom or slavery or brutality in history? We're embarrassing enough. We're the hillbillies of the planet, the United States is. Why would we take hard-earned money and give it to Israel with no, I'm all for it if they need it. I'm all for humanitarian aid, like if it's going to food to feed poor Israelis or poor Palestinians, 100%. If it's going to medicine, if it's going to be rebuild schools or help families that got affected by the tax both ways, absolutely. If it's going to kids, 100%. But if it's going to build more bombs, give them more jet fighters or more missiles, no. They're the fourth largest military in the world, and they have plenty of that money. If they're struggling, then this is the time to negotiate real peace, lasting peace, once and for all. Because this has gone on 80 plus years. And there was people there in Palestine and Israel before Israel and the Western Europeans started pouring in. And it was an invasion. There was people there. They were moved off the land. It was a very thriving area, a very bustling area, very similar to Lebanon. With hotels and commerce, and people act like there wasn't anybody there, like it was just dirt. And that's not necessarily true. And it's just like as acting like there was nobody living in North America and South America and all the Caribbean. There was people there. And to act like there wasn't people there is just another colonizer lie. And we're getting into choppy waters, and it's one of the reasons the Harvard kids and the Harvard faculty and all these other faculties are saying, we're going to do walkouts, we're going to protest. I love seeing these, especially in these Ivy League schools, because a lot of these people come from very powerful families, like the Bush family, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts. They come from old American money. And they're the smart kids. They're the smart kids or the rich kids. And let me tell you, when they start protesting and the police crack down on them, oofda. That's going to change some things, because as soon as a rich daddy's little girl or little boy spends a couple nights in the pokey, they're also going to pick up the phone and go, hello, Lindsey Graham. I funded your campaign. If you want any more funds, cut this shit out. Let's figure this out fast, because if my kid's not going to stop protesting. So what are we going to do about it? How are we going to fix this? How are we going to be more, at least appear more humanitarian? Because people are pissed off. And I didn't set my timer, so I'm not in practice, but I think I went in about 6 minutes. So we're going to take our first break here, and because we're about 22 minutes in, and we'll be back with some more two queers in a truck. Hey guys, I've got a special product out, and we've got a store under the name blueappliedtech.com, and you can go on our Etsy store, you can go on our social media, and you can check out our merchandise. We have some amazing snowflake Trump mugshot ornaments. We have mugs, we have pillow covers, we have a lot of cute stuff for the holiday season that you can buy. And it's great fun, and it goes to a good cause. It goes to my company, and it's helping us out getting started. And also, who doesn't want a historic snowflake Trump ornament?
Exactly.
This year.
That's funny. What's the name of it again?
And the name of the company is Blue, like the color blue, applied APPLIED Tech. Like technology.
Blue Applied Tech. Ah, cool.
And so you can look us up. We have a website, but our stores on Etsy, and a lot of people use Etsy for different types of great gifts. They are assembled in the United States, so it creates American jobs, and most of all, it's a lot of fun, and they're not expensive.
Cool.
So,
Blue Applied Tech. Got it.
Correct. Come seek us out and buy some gifts.
Cool.
Hey, everybody, you can catch us on your favorite audio podcast platform, Spotify, and all Apple Store, the Google machine, and whoever else does podcasts. We're on there. We broke in, and we're staying. So enjoy the Two Queers in the Truck on your favorite audio podcast platform. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye. Happy Pride. And we are back. And I literally did not write a show this morning. I'm literally pulling these ideas off my New York Times feed that I get every morning. And they had some great talking points. So I'm going to steal from the best. Not that the New York Times is that, but they do a really good job of morning recaps. One of the other important things is Starbucks is in the news. And Starbucks has been fighting the unionization of their stores. And I got mixed feelings about Starbucks. They employ a ton of LGBT people. They're one of the biggest trans employers. In fact, one of their benefits is they'll help pay for college, for trans surgeries, for medications. They do a lot for their employees, but they do pay shitty wages. Like, they pay as little as humanly possible, even if you've worked for them a long time, unless you get into management, and even that's kind of sketch. There's a reason why Howard Schultz, the owner of Starbucks and CEO and chairman of the board, is stupid wealthy. And it's the reason why they got a massive building in downtown Seattle. I had a family member that worked there at one time, and they got some money. They've made a lot of money off coffee and mediocre pastries and watered down green tea. Pro tip, if you do order iced green tea from Starbucks, always ask for no water, because they will just put mostly water with a splash of green tea in there. And I learned this from an insider. And now when I go in, I say green tea, iced, no water, large. And I get a whole thing of green tea. And then I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. And it is wonderful, and it tastes completely different. Starbucks is probably not a big fan of me saying that on the air, but you will actually get your value, because when you order a green tea with Starbucks, it's like $19.95. You're like literally like buying a gun or a knife at the gun show, and and so it's if I'm gonna pay for Howard Schultz's salary through green teas, I might as well get my money's worth. I literally can go home with a splash of that green tea and reconstitute it, put more water in it, and still taste like green tea. That's how much they water it down if you don't order it, if you order it with water, like from the toilet. And so they do rip you off. But they've been fighting unionization for a while, including here in Charlotte and all over the country. And we both have strong feelings about unions. I'll speak for myself. I'm pro-union. And I believe my partner in crime is also pro-union.
Yep.
And because you have a lot of experience with unions in the hotel industry, the hospitality industry.
Yep.
But in both ways, you work for employers that have fought it, and you've worked for employers that maybe embraced it. And the benefit of the unions is you probably get a better employee. The downside is they may cost a little bit more.
Just a tiny.
Yeah.
It's a myth, really. That
Yeah.
They cost a lot. Yeah.
I and if you keep people happy, I would think your training costs would go down.
Mm-hmm.
I would think in any service industry, and I can only speak to the service industries I've worked in, one of the hardest thing to do is to keep people. And if you go to a regular fast food place, which I put Starbucks in that, it's a convenience type items, like you get coffee and pastries and and iced teas and things like that, and beverages are in the beverage business, quick service business. Turnover and employee costs and employee training costs is probably one of the biggest business expenses. And the longer you keep somebody, the more that training is deferred throughout their tenure versus constantly having to do a churn and retraining people and reteaching them how to use their complicated cash register or use the coffee machine or whatever, or water down the green tea. And to me, I would think that union labor, I know with the auto industry, union labor builds better cars. I know that union labor gets results, and because they can go back and say, you got to step it up, boys and girls. Like they have collective benefits, so it's typically will drive the benefit costs down because you spread it over a larger pool of people, maybe even across different employers, like things like that. There's a lot of benefit to unions and a lot of standardization. And in an information age, I would think that would be more important. I don't understand why any American labor, middle class and down, should not be unionized. I see all upside, no downside. And I think you're exactly right. I think there's a lot of mythos around unions because of whatever. I think a lot of conservatives like Reagan hated unions for whatever, or maybe his biggest contributors didn't like unions for whatever. And we've developed this anti-union, because I know in other countries, unions typically do better. Collective bargaining is a more normal thing, a more typical thing. And I would just think it sounds better. It sounds better for our neighbors that work in unionized industries. And also too, it like nobody should be paying anybody $6 or $7 or $8 an hour. Like, I mean, if the average rent in Charlotte, North Carolina for a 2-bedroom apartment costs somebody, they need to make at least $24 to $32 an hour to even afford an apartment. They don't need it. They can't live on 8. They can't even live on 15. Or they got to work 80 hours a week. And then the quality goes down. Or they're working 2 jobs. And to me, that doesn't benefit anybody. To me, the more hours they work to a certain point gets a diminishing return. and then you don't get as good of a return on your investment as an employer. And then you spend more money on mistakes. You spend more money on redos. Coffee orders were wrong. Things get dropped. More sick days, things of that nature, more call outs, more personal days. And to me, that defeats the purpose, because, a lot of employers pay for paid time leave for things of that nature. And it seems like only your costs are going to go up, especially in a 7-day-a-week store. Tesla's in the news. Tesla's got a lot of concerns because China, their main subsidized electric vehicle maker, wants to get into the American market. And they think they've probably figured out a loophole. They're probably going to try to make them in Mexico and bring them in through the NAFTA agreement. And like they've been doing, that's why Mexico and the United States' trade's gone up, because China's been starting to import things through Mexico, and then Mexico just slides them across the border because they're a trading partner of us. They're a conjoined neighbor. They've been a conjoined neighbor for a minute now. And there could be a onslaught of very affordable, very good electric vehicles coming from China. And they will kick the crap out of the American EV market, just like Japan did in the 70s and 80s with Toyota and Nissan and Honda. That's crazy. I work for Honda. And GM, Ford, and especially Chrysler practically went out of business for a while. Like they got blown out of their own market because Japanese automakers made it cheaper, more affordable, more what the people wanted. They appealed to people wanting better gas mileage and more economy and honestly better quality. The imports just were better cars. And they even started building them in the United States. A Honda Accord has more domestic parts and comes from domestic sources in the United States than a Ford Taurus did in the 1990s. Most of the Ford Taurus parts came from Puebla and Mexico. And true story, because, Ford was closing all these plants in Detroit and Michigan and Ohio and all that. And Honda would go in and buy up those plants and restart them, but build Hondas and Civics and Accords and minivans and all kinds of stuff. And now Tesla's petrified, so much so they're announcing that they're going to try to make a Model 2, which would be the least expensive car they have. Right now, their cheapest one's the Model 3, and it's not that cheap. But according to the article on it, it's looking at they're going to put in a Model 2 that's likely going to cost around $25,000. It's about 28% less than Model 3. And it is designed to be an import killer. It's designed to appeal to the American that wants to drive an EV but doesn't want to pay $70,000 for it. And maybe doesn't find the Toyota EVs or the American EVs appealing, or any of the new startups, because with a startup, you do have risk. If they go out of business, your warranty shot. And so Tesla being the largest independent EV maker, not necessarily the best, but they're definitely trying to jump into a market that's going to have a huge impact on mass adoption, because most people, if they're going to buy an EV, they're not going to want to spend that kind of money. Most people can't. But they can't afford, surprisingly, $25,000 cars. And so I'm sure they're going to produce a mass amount of these. I'm sure they're going to retool some plants or open some new plants and flood the market, which probably isn't necessarily a bad idea. It will push competition out and probably put some out of them out of business. But that was our fourth topic, and so we're up against our second break with Two Queers in a Truck, and we'll be right back with some more hijinks.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us, either this show or any of our past shows, on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Queers in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show.
And we are back. And honestly, I don't like Elmo. I do like the fact that Tesla creates American jobs. And he's been controversial with Tesla because he's been trying to get them to pay him $55 billion. And some of the stockholders and owners of Tesla are like, well, that's a little bit much. Even the court system is saying, not so fast, everybody. Which has also caused Tesla some issues. Mismanagement's caused some issues. And market shifts. Electric vehicles still haven't been mass adopted. Still, most people either drive a gas-powered or a hybrid, which is gas and electric. Some because of cost, some because of convenience or range. Electric vehicles now, some are getting up to 300 or 400 miles with a single charge. But some people just want to pull in the gas station and pump the car full of gas or diesel and go on down the road and just say, we'll worry about the environment when in craters. We'll worry about that pesky not having breathable air when we don't have breathable air. Which probably isn't the best choice, but we all know that Americans especially usually wait till it gets bad. We did it with World War II. Hitler was almost making it around the globe before we decided maybe we should do something. And it took bombing Pearl Harbor by the Japanese for us to actually jump into World War II. When if we just jumped in earlier, we probably could have ended it before it got serious. And just, maybe you shouldn't conquer the entire continent of Europe, and let's slow this down a little bit. But instead, we cost millions of more lives, spent untold amounts of money, and changed the course of history, but at a very, very steep price. And we still are paying it for today because we still have our military in Japan and Germany 80 years later. So I guess it's not free. But I think the United States is getting in this weird protectionist era where they're trying to ban things that come from China. And I kind of wonder why now. I mean, Walmart's been importing and Amazon have been importing cheap Chinese goods for a minute. And clothing retailers like Shein have been sending in fast fashion for a while, and a bunch of other online retailers have been too. And we've been enjoying the cheap labor, and a lot of business investors have always said, I'm going to invest into manufacturing plants in China because they have 1.5 billion people. I don't have to pay them that much. Quality might suck, but if they're paying for a fraction of what a European person or an American or a more expensive economy would work for, I mean, if they'll work for $1.50 an hour, it's kind of hard to compete. You're almost getting into free labor. And we've been doing that quite a while. Even back to the made in Taiwan days of the 70s and 80s before they just made everything made in China. And I kind of wonder, why now? Why be that upset? Why be mad about it now? Because China's actually struggling economically, and they have an aging population, and they have a lot of issues. This is when that's probably the least competitive they've been in a while is right now, and it's probably going to be that way for a generation. Why are we so upset now? Why are we so butthurt? And you don't know with politicians. You don't know why they kind of jump on their soapbox. I have my suspicions. I'm sure there's a lot of American companies that are investing in the politicians and buying our politicians and upset that China does some things really good, just like Japan did. But just like Japan, they have limited resources compared to the United States. And they fizzled towards the end of the 90s and they leveled off. And China's starting to do that too. And their average age of their citizens is pushing, it's one of the oldest populations in the world. And they're having a serious problem with their baby boom and Gen X being the majority of their population. And people were wanting to retire and I said, no, you got to work into your 90s, you know, like, you know, and so they got a labor issue because of the one child policy that they did for so long, and now they're cranking up babies, but the babies are babies. Like they're not going to be working in a factory or anything else in a long, long time, and it's kind of an issue, and all that. So there's a significant amount of controversy on what we should do with China, and I honestly think we've had such a long trade with them, and we've benefited from cheap Chinese labor and all that. The worst thing we can do is turn on them because they're gonna start doing more business with Russia. They're gonna start doing more business with other countries, and that may not be always the best cause. It may not be the smartest choice, and we definitely could end up costing ourselves more than we need to. Big news as far as, let's see, I'm slowing down here. I haven't done this in a minute. It's kind of wild. Oh yeah. I wanted to end on this one because this one's actually an LGBT story. So, out of South Florida, the Florida White House, according to the MAGAs, Melania Trump and the dream team of Melania Trump and Caitlyn Jenner, our old friend Caitlyn Jenner, the worst trans person on the planet, decided to do an LGBT fundraiser with the log cabin Republicans, the gays that hate themselves the most, and they raised a whopping $1 million at Mar-a-Lago, which I would imagine if they raised $1 million for Trump, that's not going to even come close to paying for his fines or his attorneys. It's just kind of weird. For one, like the fundraiser has Melania and Caitlyn Jenner, and you think, well, Melania is not queer. As far as I know, she's never advocated, as long as she's been in public life, as the first lady and then the former first lady in 8 years. I don't know if any LGBT organizations at all that she's even reached out to. And of course, log cabin Republicans, for the most part, are like the LGB lines that excludes the trans people. It's usually started by straight people. It's usually started by straight conservatives. The majority of the log cabin Republicans probably aren't even gay. I would have my doubts, because a lot of that crap in Florida is coming from DeSantis' wife, the assholes with casseroles, the Moms for Liberty, and a bunch of other terrorist organizations. So you got a question. But I think it's funny that they did this big fundraiser at the White House and only raised $1 million. So it tells you a couple things. One, the rich gays did not contribute. Nobody in their right mind in the LGBT community would contribute to that shit. You definitely wouldn't give to Trump. You might give to a Republican, like a local Republican, like somebody on city council or somebody in the Senate or something like that. But you're sure shit not going to give that money to Trump. It's like setting $100 bills on fire. And even the Republican gays aren't stupid. They're like, nah. Did a big national fundraiser and only raised $1 million. there's lots of local politicians on the state and federal level that can raise more than that. I mean, HRC galas approached that amount. And I just think it's funny. I think it is something that says a lot about the Republican Party. As many closeted gays and queer people that are in the Republican Party, they still can only muster up $1 million. And I think it's funny as shit. I think it speaks to the desperation. Because this is the first time I've ever heard of Melania even doing an LGBT fundraiser. I don't remember it if it happened. The last time I heard Trump directly talk about the gay community is when he hand wrote that weird looking rainbow flag and LGBT for Trump. He got laughed at back in 2016 for doing that. And then the next thing he did was ban trans people from the military. And then I don't remember him really even doing anything, good or bad. It's like he just, I'm not going to even talk about it. Personally. And I don't remember him really running on anything LGBT wise. And I guess all of a sudden, because he's in a criminal trial now, and he's falling asleep in court, because Joe Biden was Sleepy Joe. Joe's out riding 10 miles on his Peloton and laughing about it, and Trump, he looks wore out. If you haven't seen a picture of him lately, if you see a good candid picture of him that's not doctored up by the MAGAs or the Proud Girls, he looks old. He looks like the wheels are coming off. And now he's falling asleep in court. Like, I think last week, he fell asleep every day. And it's wild. It's surreal. Like, he's going in to take naps at court. And then I guess going home and playing golf, one of his courses, maybe in New Jersey. But, maybe you should slow down, big boy. Maybe don't eat so many cheeseburgers before you go in or something. Like, maybe those Happy Meals are not making you so happy. I really don't think he's going to make it to November 2024. I don't know. I mean, I'm not worried about him. He's getting what he deserves. I mean, he's in the find out part of his life. But it's kind of surreal. The wheels look like they're coming off. I mean, and I'm seeing these desperate moves and these weird moves by the MAGAs. And the fact that they're trying to rely on gays, they're really desperate because we ain't having it. We're not going to be sending any checks, buying any Trump cards, or buying any golden tickets. Even if Willy Wonka throws in some chocolate, homie ain't going to play. We're just not coming out to play. And there ain't going to be no rainbows and ponies for Trump. Not in prison. I mean, there may be some gay sex. But it ain't going to be consensual when the lights go out. But anyway, that is the end of Two Queers and a Truck, the first edition. And we'll see you next week. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Make you a good day. Bye, dude.
Bye, boo. Good show. Oh, hold on. Let's stop recording.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. And we are back after our spring break. And we did a little bit of spring cleaning. And we are back with some more fresh shows for the late spring and the summer. Thank you for being with us. And we'll see you next week. Happy Cinco de Mayo, folks. Happy May 1st.
Happy May 1st.
Yeah. Bye, Bear.